നമസ്കാരം, ഞാൻ സിന്ധു പുന്നൂസ്. നമ്മുടെ മലയാളം FM-ന്റെ അറിഞ്ഞതും അറിയാത്തതുമെന്ന അഭിമുഖ പരമ്പരയുടെ പുതിയൊരു അധ്യായത്തിലേക്ക് എല്ലാവർക്കും സ്വാഗതം. ഇന്ന് നമുക്ക് അതിഥിയായി ലഭിച്ചിരിക്കുന്നത് ലോകമെമ്പാടുമുള്ള മലയാളികളുടെ അഭിമാനമായ എഴുത്തുകാരനും സ്റ്റാൻഫോർഡ് യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റി സ്കൂൾ ഓഫ് മെഡിസിൻ്റെ വൈസ് ചെയറുമായ ഡോക്ടർ എബ്രഹാം വർഗീസ് MD MSc ആണ്. ടോൾസ്റ്റോയുടെ ഇവാൻ ലിഞ്ചിൻ്റെ ജെറാസിമിനെ പോലെ തീർത്തും ഒരു മനുഷ്യസ്നേഹിയും യാഥാർത്ഥ്യങ്ങളെ തുറന്നു പറയുന്ന പച്ചയായൊരു മനുഷ്യൻ. അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ ഡോക്ടറുടെ 4 നോവലുകളും ന്യൂയോർക്ക് ബെസ്റ്റ് സെല്ലേഴ്സാണ്. കഴിഞ്ഞ വർഷം ഇറങ്ങിയ ദ കവനന്റ് ഓഫ് വാട്ടർ ഒപ്ര ബുക്ക് ക്ലബിൽ ഇടം നേടിയിരിക്കുകയാണ്. ഒപ്ര വിൻഫ്രി കുറിച്ചത് it is one of the best books I have read in my entire life എന്നാണ്. കൂടാതെ അവാർഡുകൾ ഇനിയുമുണ്ട് പറയാനായിട്ട്. ഹെയ്ൻസ് അവാർഡ്, നാഷണൽ ഹ്യൂമാനിറ്റീസ് മെഡൽ ജേതാവാണ്. നമുക്ക് സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യാം ഡോക്ടർ എബ്രഹാം വർഗീസിനെ മലയാളം FM-ലേക്ക്. സ്വാഗതം ഡോക്ടർ.
Very nice to be with you. Thank you.
ഡോക്ടർ എന്ന് വിളിക്കുന്നതാണോ, ഡോക്ടർ എബ്രഹാം എന്ന് വിളിക്കുന്നതാണോ, ഡോക്ടർ വർഗീസ് എന്ന് വിളിക്കുന്നതാണോ?
Call me Abraham.
Abraham. Yes. Abraham, we can see geography plays a very significant role in your novels, like Cutting for Stone. The plot is set up in Ethiopia, where you're born, and also the recent popular one, the Oprah's book club pick, The Covenant of Water, is also based in a Kerala setup with 3 generations of Christian family. Were there any reason of you choosing geography around your stories or your novels?
First of all, may I just say what a pleasure it is to talk to you.
Yeah.
And I'm so sorry that I'm not speaking in Malayalam. I told my father yesterday that I'm going to do a Malayalam interview. He said, don't speak in Malayalam.
Don't do that. Anyway.
So I speak Malayalam, but I don't think I speak it at the refined level that is worthy of your listeners. So anyway, thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you.
I think there's a very famous quote by Napoleon that geography is destiny. And that has been true in my life. My parents moved from Kerala after independence to Africa, and their whole life changed. I was born in Ethiopia, so my destiny was different from theirs. So I think geography plays a huge role in our lives. You move to New Zealand and you have a very different life. And so I always think of geography in a novel as a character, a very important character. The same story set somewhere else wouldn't work the same way. And so my first novel, it was easy for me to pick Ethiopia. I was born there. I knew the land very well. I speak Amharic, the language of Ethiopia, much better than Malayalam or Tamil. I speak both.
Oh, okay.
But
Adidas Ababa is the place where it was centered at, the characters were centered at?
It was the capital of Ethiopia, yeah, and Amharic is the local language. So, so when I was writing a second novel, The Covenant of Water, Kerala is such a unique geography. It's the land of my parents' birth. It's my cultural land. And even though I didn't know it as well as, say, you do, we were there every summer for vacation. And then later in medical school, I was in Madras. I would come down often to my grandparents' houses. And that, with a lot of research, I was able to make that the location for that novel.
Great. Your hometown is the place same as in a novel, Parambil?
Yeah, Parambil is a fictional place. Yeah, okay. I tried to pick some word that was as neutral as it could be.
Okay.
And also, I did not have too many syllables. So I picked Parambil thinking it's pretty innocuous.
Okay.
But to my surprise, I have about 5 or 10 people wrote to me saying, "Are you writing about our Parambil family?" So I think I'm hoping that the reader understands it's completely fictional. Yeah.
Glad to see also some Malayalam words also, like the first page itself starts with Kizhakedu,
Yeah, yeah.
And we can see a lot of Malayalam words
Yeah.
in this
Which is
novel.
one of the reasons why I wanted to record the audiobook myself.
Yeah.
Because even though typically novels are not recorded by authors, but typically they're recorded by actors, like Meryl Streep and Brad Pitt are famous recording because they know how to perform a book. But I thought even Meryl Streep would butcher some of the Malayalam words, so
Yeah.
I was very fortunate to get some training and to be able to perform the audiobook.
Okay. Yeah, couldn't agree more, because the feel you have given into that audiobook is really giving us, especially for Malayalis, we can get that feel when we listen to your audiobook.
That's wonderful. Yeah. I should tell you that I was very nervous about how Malayalis would receive my book.
Yes.
Because Malayalis are pretty critical, as you know.
I know.
Almost a cultural trait, right? I just worried that people would say, what does this foreigner, this Saipa know about, our land?
Yeah.
But I'm just thrilled the way Malayalis have embraced it.
Yeah.
Almost as though the book is telling their story,
Yeah.
to other people. So it's been very gratifying.
Absolutely. On that note, just using a Malayalam word, I would like to call you as a Kadagalde Rajakumaran, king of stories, because in your TED talk, you used to mention the influence of stories in our human life, how stories can connect people. And you also mentions that stories are an equipment of living. Is there a situation or an experience have you felt you have been a catalyst to equip someone's life?
Yeah, I mean, I think, first of all, I think stories are fundamental.
Yeah.
When we bring our children up, we begin by telling them stories, and then the stories get more complicated, mythological stories or stories from the Bible or the Vedas.
Yeah.
So I think stories are really, they are the atoms and the molecules of human interaction.
Yeah.
But I think as a physician, you have a unique role in stories in the sense that people come to you presenting their story of what's happening over 5 weeks or 5 days or 5 hours.
Yes.
And you bring your knowledge of stories to sort of imagine what the rest of the story might be. What is going on here? You're trying to match this story, incomplete story, with the stories that you're aware of. So, I think very often there are times when I know the diagnosis the moment the person walks in. But it's still necessary for them to tell me their story. I don't want to interrupt them and say, don't say anything. I know what's going on. I think stories are both necessary for us to tell, but stories are also the way we understand each other and the world. So I don't think it's a big separation between medicine and writing. They really are interconnected. Medicine is very much art and science. It's the art of, understanding not just disease, but the human being. There's a very famous quotation in medicine by William Osler, a famous American physician who died in 1917. But he said it's more important to know what patient has the disease than what disease the patient has.
Exactly.
Because the same disease in different people has a completely different presentation, meaning, relevance.
Yeah, true. In that context, let me ask you, you also mentioned you're a strong advocate of listening to patients' stories, their situations, where they're coming from. You might be coming across with patients who has got terminal illness, who will be looking upon you as a last resort. And you know for sure it is not curable. But at the same time, you say you can heal. As a doctor, as a physician, you can heal. Can you throw some light on how you pick up that kind of a quote in your career?
Well, I think what I was trying to express is that Western medicine has become very focused on curing. And, we try and find a cure, and if we can't cure you, there's almost a sense, well, there's nothing we can do. But I think the old-time physicians of 100, 200 years ago, even when there was no cure, they were still able to, to make the patient feel cared for, feel as though they're not being abandoned. So the example that I use with my medical students to talk about the difference between curing and healing, if you imagine that you go back to your house now and find that the door is open, even though you locked it.
Yeah.
And you walk inside, you see all your belongings are all over the
Mess,
place,
yeah.
and your valuables, your jewelry, television, all gone. You will have, first of all, a physical sense of loss, valuable stuff gone, but you also have a sense of violation. Somebody came to my sacred space and violated, the sanctity of my home. If the police come by in an hour and say, we caught the person, here's your stuff back, you will be cured.
Absolutely.
But you will not be healed. Your sense of violation might be so strong that you might move from that apartment or house to go some other neighborhood. So I think all illness has those two qualities. There's always a physical loss, You break a finger, it's okay. Middle phalanx, non-displaced fracture. But at another level, it's why me? Why now? Why, And I think with diseases like HIV and cancer, the sense of violation is huge. And even when you can't cure, the physician still has a role to address that sense of violation, to understand that there's more than something physical going on. There's also a tremendous sense of the soul being violated. And that's why I think medicine used to be called the ministry of healing. There's always this other component to it. So I'm not saying anything original. This is how medicine is supposed to be. This is how it has been.
True.
I just think that our postmodern sensibilities have taken us in a very different direction.
Yeah. The doctors in our home countries used to have that kind of a feeling towards patients like us. For example, our forefathers used to talk about doctors.
Yeah.
It is like a family member or a family doctor to them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was really, someone who knew you, knew the family. I mean, that said, I'm not suggesting that, all the wonderful modern advances we have. I practice at Stanford in a cutting edge technology place. So we do amazing things, but we have to do that in the context of a person, the person.
Let's talk about your book, The Covenant of Water. Beautiful book. You talk about water, or we can see water is a symbol of death. Isn't it water can also be related to birth? For example, the embryo is developed in water. Most of the rituals in all religions, for that matter, Christianity or Islam, starts with water. What is your view on that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I don't think I ever state in the book that water is a symbol of death.
Yeah.
It just happens that, water is also a place where one can drown. But yeah, very much so. I always think that when we enter a patient's room and we wash our hands, we're symbolically reenacting a sacred ritual, washing the hands to enter the sacred space. Yeah, I think, you and I are made up of 60% water. Water is vital to our existence. So I think water is symbolic. It's about renewal. It's about life. It's also about flow. You stand at the same spot in the river, but you can never touch the same river twice because the river's already moved on. So, I wanted the reader to think of water in any way they chose in the context of where they were in the story.
Nice. Talking about your other book, Cutting for Stone, almost all the characters are living in exile, either self-imposed or forced. What will be your advice to people like us, immigrants, who are here in a new country? How can we enrich our culture and stay connected, I would say, and give back to your home like what you're doing? What would be your advice?
Well, I'm not sure that I would presume to give you advice. I would just say that, I found that I have really learned so much by immersing myself in the many places I've lived. I've lived in Africa, lived in, Madras, I've lived in Kerala, I've lived in Boston, Iowa, Tennessee, El Paso, San Antonio, now California. And I think each place teaches you something about yourself.
Yes.
I also think the great advantage of being an expatriate is that you bring a outsider's vision. You have a sort of a way of seeing and appreciating some of the rituals that locals are so used to that they stop seeing it. So I think it's a two-way street. I think we have a lot to offer. We also have a lot to learn. So I think too often we tend to be, too isolated from the culture that has received us, and I think making every effort to make it a two-way street, as you're doing, being an ambassador both to New Zealand and to your roots.
Great. Should be a two-way process, give and take, offer
Absolutely.
and learn from the new community. We can see Cutting for Stone has been translated into almost 20 languages. Have you got any plans to get the Covenant of Water translated into Malayalam?
Actually, it's being translated into Malayalam.
Oh, great.
The Manorama
Uh-huh.
has bought the rights to translate it, and I was actually at the Manorama office in January
Oh,
and had a nice visit with my former college mate, Chako, Jacob Matthew, and met the translation team. And they actually read me a couple of pages of the translation already produced,
excellent.
just to sort of show me some of the challenges and some of the wonderful opportunities there. So I'm very excited. I mean, I didn't even think that there would be that much interest. For some reason, I assumed that most people, Malayalis who wanted to read it, would read it in English. But it turns out that people, even if they're very fluent in English, there are many who would still prefer to read in
Read in
Malayalam.
Malayalam.
So I'm excited. I hope. I can't tell you when it's coming out. There's also a movie being made by Oprah and Netflix in production. It might be a while, but so it's just exciting to see more attention coming to Kerala because of a novel. I mean, it has already generated lots of interest, so I'm excited. Yeah.
I'm also excited too because Malayalam Manorama, I'm so proud to hear that from you. I had a long stint with Malayalam Manorama group
I know.
for 13 years, and Mr. Jacob Matthews was my employer. So I'm so glad and excited to read the Malayalam version too of the Covenant of Water.
And by the way, the Manorama figures in the story quite a bit. I don't know if you've got there yet, but one of the characters writes for the Manorama.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm hearing from you have got a lot of passion towards Kerala. Can you take us down to your memory lane of your summer vacations in Kerala, your favorite dishes, or
Of course,
what is your memory about Kerala?
Yeah. No, I loved going to Kerala. I think what I loved most was both my grandmothers. They were such unique women. I think we all know women like this who, they were heroic. They were heroic, and yet the world didn't know about them. They lived very confined lives, married very young, and they had been through great tragedy. Each one of them had lost a son very young. They had suffered through, lots of ups and downs, seen wars, that had affected their fortunes. But they were so incredibly loving. They were also so strong in their faith.
Yeah.
And so I think what I remember most about my visits to Kerala was just the love, the pure love that came from the grandparents. And also we were going back in time. There was no electricity or running water in the early days when I would go back, which I thought was wonderful. In the evenings it was lamplight everywhere, and it was like a great adventure. And I have to try and convey to my children that the absence of running water and electricity wasn't a deprivation. It was actually the house had plenty.
Yeah.
And when electricity came, it brought a harshness of light that I think took away some of the romantic aspects of being there. My grandmother's kitchen was a very special place. And
Bigamachi.
Yeah, Bigamachi. She wasn't Bigamachi, but her kitchen, the kitchen I described, is very much like my mother's kitchen. It was small but rich with aroma, all the pots hanging there, and she'd make me more mallam, or she'd make my favorite or mean veg to them. I mean, it was like every day was a feast of flavors and food, and people bringing fresh fish, people bringing fresh chicken and vegetables. It was just wonderful memories. Yeah, very rich.
Have you ever enjoyed swimming in the backwaters of Kerala?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, the river was a bit too much for us, but certainly in the ponds and backwaters. Yeah.
Abraham, we can also see you have spent almost 14 years to finish the Covenant of Water.
Yeah.
Is there something similar in the making?
I'm not yet thinking of the next book. One of the blessings I have is I have a great day job. I love what I do. I'm not in a hurry where I think there's almost a modern trap where after every successful song or novel or film, immediately they want another one. And I'm really enjoying how well this is doing, and when I move I will try to write it. I'm sure I'll write again, but it's not an urgent feeling. So I'm just happy to
Yeah.
have this book received so well.
Yeah. Looking forward.
Thank you.
How was your experience with the Auckland Writers Festival? Are
Lovely.
you coming for the
Yeah,
first time?
I love the festival, and I have a first cousin here, so I'm getting to see her after a long time.
Uh-huh.
It's been a great, great visit. And thank you for taking the time to talk to me.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us. It is a pleasure for Malayalam FM and for the Malayalis across the globe. And wish you all good luck. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much.